General Motors has been a powerhouse of American automotive innovation for over a century. From the luxurious Cadillac to the performance-oriented Chevrolet and Buick, GM has produced countless iconic vehicles. But not every idea made it to showrooms. Some prototypes, concept cars, and experimental models were built, but banned or canceled due to safety concerns, impracticality, or regulatory issues. These are 9 GM cars that were built but never released to the public.
Dear viewer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support.
Number 9. The 1956 Chevrolet Corvette SS Supersport prototype is one of the most fascinating and tragic stories in General Motors racing history. It was meant to prove that America could compete with Europe's best at Le Mans, to show that Chevrolet's Corvette wasn't just a pretty boulevard cruiser, but a true endurance racer capable of taking on Mercedes, Jaguar, and Ferrari. What GM built was an engineering marvel for its time, but it quite literally went up in flames, both figuratively and literally, ending GM's official involvement in racing for years. Let's rewind to the mid-1950s. Chevrolet's Corvette was still struggling to find its identity. Early Corvettes were beautiful but underpowered, more of a fashion statement than a real sports car. That changed when Izora Arkus Duntov, a Belgian-born engineer and racer, joined GM. He envisioned turning the Corvette into a genuine performance car, something that could stand toe-to-toe with Europe's elite. The 1956 Corvette SS was his moonshot. Built by GM's experimental department, the SS was designed specifically for endurance racing, especially the 1957 24 Hours of Le Mans. Duntov and his team used cutting-edge materials and techniques to make the car as light and aerodynamic as possible. Instead of steel, the SS featured a magnesium alloy body mounted on a tubular steel frame, an incredibly lightweight but risky choice, since magnesium is notoriously flammable when overheated. Power came from a highly tuned 283 cubic inch small block V8, producing around 307 horsepower, impressive for a car weighing under 1,900 pounds. The chassis and suspension were sophisticated for the era, featuring independent front suspension and a DD-on-type rear axle to improve handling and traction. On paper, this was a revolutionary American racer, the kind of car that could challenge Ferrari on equal terms. But as testing began at Sebring in 1957, the dream unraveled. The Corvette SS was blindingly fast, reportedly hitting 183 miles per hour on straights, but it couldn't sustain that performance. The magnesium body trapped heat instead of dissipating it, and the car's lightweight construction couldn't handle the strain of endurance conditions. The brakes overheated, the steering vibrated violently at speed, and the cockpit became unbearably hot for the drivers. Then came disaster. During extended testing, the SS's engine bay temperature soared to dangerous levels. The car's magnesium body panels began to warp, and eventually, the car caught fire during a high-speed run. Though the driver escaped, the incident destroyed GM's confidence in the project. The SS never made it to Le Mans. To make matters worse, the fire coincided with a political storm. In 1957, the American Automobile Manufacturers Association, AAMA, under pressure from federal regulators and safety advocates, issued a ban on all factory-backed racing efforts. The Corvette SS became a casualty of both mechanical failure and government intervention. GM was officially barred from participating in motorsport for years, and the SS was literally buried, both in reputation and in archives. Only 2 examples of the Corvette SS were built, the original prototype and a later show car version built to display at auto shows. The prototype, damaged by fire, was eventually scrapped. The project's failure forced Duntov and Chevrolet to refocus their efforts on production-based performance, leading to the birth of the Corvette Stingray years later, a car that would finally deliver on the SS's lost promise. In hindsight, the 1956 Corvette SS prototype represents the thin line between innovation and disaster. It was breathtakingly advanced for its time, a car that pushed materials, engineering, and imagination to their limits. But it also showed what happens when those limits are ignored. The Corvette SS didn't win any races, but it lit the spark that would transform the Corvette name from a curious experiment into an American legend. The fire that ended the SS's life ultimately fueled the birth of a true sports car dynasty, one that still burns brightly today.
Number 8. The 1966 Chevrolet Corvair Monza GT2 was General Motors' second attempt to redeem and modernize the controversial Corvair platform, but it arrived too late. Following the uproar sparked by Ralph Nader's Unsafe at Any Speed, which accused the Corvair of being inherently unsafe due to its swing axle rear suspension, anything associated with the Corvair name became toxic. Design and ambition. The Monza GT2 was developed under GM's Advanced Design Studio, led by Bill Mitchell, as a successor to the earlier 1962 Corvair Monza GT concept. While the first Monza GT had a mid-engine layout and a sleek bubble canopy look inspired by European racing prototypes, the GT2 evolved the idea into something more production feasible. A front-engine, rear-drive, fastback coupe that shared styling cues with the upcoming second-generation Camaro and Corvette C3. The body was low, sculpted, and futuristic, with hidden headlamps, a graceful roofline, and flush glasswork. It was visually stunning, a piece of 1960s optimism, promising a future where American automakers could rival Italian exotics in design sophistication. The interior featured wraparound instrumentation and minimalist controls, hinting at GM's growing interest in cockpit-style ergonomics. Engineering and performance. Mechanically, however, the Monza GT2 still relied on Corvair components, including the air-cooled flat-six engine and independent rear suspension. Despite its improved handling over early Corvairs, it suffered from the same basic limitations: underpowered for its aggressive styling, prone to heat issues, and constrained by its lightweight construction. GM engineers considered fitting it with a more powerful V6 or small block V8, but that would have required major re-engineering of the chassis. Ultimately, it remained a showpiece, not a serious performance prototype. The downfall. By 1966, GM was publicly distancing itself from the Corvair line due to the safety scandal. Nader's book had painted the Corvair as a symbol of corporate negligence, and GM executives were desperate to move on. As a result, the Monza GT2 was effectively blacklisted. Despite its beauty and potential as a future sports car platform, it was shelved indefinitely. The prototype was quietly retired, and GM banned further Corvair-based concept work to avoid bad publicity. The Monza GT2 never entered production, and even its design DNA was diluted before appearing in later GM models. Legacy. Today, the 1966 Chevrolet Corvair Monza GT2 stands as a tragic what-if in GM's history, a car that could have bridged the gap between the Corvair's innovation and the Corvette's legacy. It demonstrated that GM's designers were capable of building truly world-class shapes, but corporate fear and regulatory backlash buried it before the world could see what it could become. It remains a striking reminder of how public perception, not just engineering, can kill a car's future.
Number 7. The 1970 Pontiac Pegasus was one of General Motors' most fascinating and forbidden experiments, a bold fusion of American muscle and Italian exoticism. Conceived during GM's golden age of experimental design, the Pegasus was an audacious project that attempted to blend Pontiac's performance image with the allure of Ferrari. But its very success in mimicking an Italian supercar ultimately became its downfall. The Pegasus was the brainchild of Bill Mitchell, GM's flamboyant vice president of design, who adored European sports cars. He personally owned several Ferraris and Maseratis, and he wanted to prove that GM's designers could craft a car with the same level of grace, proportion, and sound, but built on an American foundation. Mitchell selected the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am chassis as the base.
It was strong, rear-wheel drive, and emblematic of Pontiac's muscle car spirit. But he wanted something with a truly exotic heart. So GM engineers fitted the car with a Ferrari 365 GTB4 Daytona 4.4-liter V12 engine, paired to a GM 4-speed transmission. The result was a machine that looked, sounded, and performed like a Ferrari, but with Detroit muscle underpinnings. The Pegasus's design was pure visual poetry. Its hand-formed bodywork took direct inspiration from the Ferrari Daytona, combined with Pontiac cues, such as the split front grille and Firebird-style rear end. The lines were long and flowing, with perfect proportions, nothing like the chunky, angular muscle cars of the era. The car sat low, with sleek aluminum panels, minimal chrome, and a refined dashboard unlike any production Pontiac. This was no gimmick. It was a serious attempt to marry Italian elegance with American muscle car culture. With the Ferrari V12 producing around 352 horsepower, the Pegasus could sprint with the best Grand Tourers of its era. Combined with the Trans Am suspension setup and GM's expertise in chassis tuning, it was a capable machine that blended American road manners with Italian noise and power delivery. However, it was not a production-ready car. The hand-built nature of the bodywork, the mismatched components, and the difficulty of servicing a Ferrari engine inside a GM structure made it purely a showpiece and design exercise. The Pegasus stirred significant controversy when it was unveiled to the press. Ferrari, upon seeing photos of the car, was furious, claiming that GM had directly copied the design language of their Daytona and used a Ferrari engine without formal permission. There were threats of legal action from Ferrari's legal department, especially regarding the use of Ferrari's intellectual property in a publicly displayed non-Ferrari product. As a result, GM quietly withdrew the Pegasus from public exhibitions and prohibited its use on public roads. The car was never registered, effectively banned from road use, and became a museum piece. Today, the 1970 Pontiac Pegasus exists as a singular symbol of GM's experimental bravado, a dream where American and Italian design philosophies briefly met. It was never meant for mass production, but it showed how imaginative and fearless GM's design studios once were. The car remains preserved in GM's Heritage Collection, occasionally appearing at select events as a reminder of what could happen when Detroit dared to dream like Maranello. In the end, the Pegasus was too bold for its time, too Italian to be American, too American to be Italian, and too perfect for either world to claim it.
Number 6. The 1973 Pontiac Grand Am 2+2 prototype was one of General Motors' most intriguing what-ifs of the early 1970s, a car that aimed to merge European precision with American muscle luxury. Conceived at a time when Pontiac still had performance ambitions, but was being pressured by safety, emissions, and market shifts, the Grand Am 2+2 was supposed to signal a new direction for Pontiac, a European-inspired performance coupe for sophisticated American drivers. Unfortunately, its debut coincided with one of the worst possible moments in automotive history, the 1973 OPEC oil crisis, which abruptly ended GM's appetite for performance and permanently shelved the project. In the early 1970s, Pontiac's engineers and designers were frustrated. The muscle car era was winding down, but they didn't want to abandon performance entirely. They noticed how BMW and Mercedes-Benz were gaining attention in the US for their refined yet sporty sedans and coupes. Pontiac's answer was the Grand Am 2+2 prototype, a car that would combine the raw V8 power of American muscle with the tight handling and road feel of a European Grand Tour. Internally, Pontiac called it a driver's luxury car. The name 2+2 signified its intended mission, a true four-seater Grand Touring coupe with serious performance credentials, something to rival the BMW 3.0 CS or Mercedes 450 SLC, but at an American price. The prototype was based on a modified A-body platform, shared with the production Grand Am, but extensively reworked. It featured a shorter wheelbase and lower stance, giving it a sportier proportion. Four-wheel independent suspension, a first for a Pontiac concept of the time. Power came from a high-output 400 cubic inch or 6.6-liter V8, tuned for better balance and throttle response rather than brute force. A 4-speed manual transmission, rare for a luxury coupe of its class. Inside, Pontiac designers crafted a European-inspired cockpit with deeply contoured bucket seats, a driver-oriented instrument panel, and genuine wood and brushed aluminum trim. The focus was on tactile feel, precise, functional, and refined. The front fascia resembled a cross between a GTO and a BMW, with quad headlights and a split grille softened for aerodynamic flow. The rear was clean and fastback-like, evoking the look of a proper GT coupe. Just as the Grand Am 2+2 prototype was being evaluated for potential production, the oil crisis of late 1973 erupted. Gas prices quadrupled, and the American public suddenly wanted smaller, more fuel-efficient cars, not luxury V8 coupes. At the same time, new emissions laws and corporate average fuel economy, or CAF, regulations were introduced, forcing GM to reallocate resources towards compliance rather than performance development. In response, GM's executive board issued a blanket ban on all high-performance vehicle programs, including Pontiac's 2+2 project. The prototype was immediately canceled before production planning could begin. The 1973 Pontiac Grand Am 2+2 prototype remained a one-off prototype, shown briefly to internal audiences and press members, then quietly stored away. Pontiac, stripped of its performance identity by corporate mandate, shifted towards personal luxury cars like the Grand Prix and later the Bonneville Brougham, leaving behind its muscle heritage. However, the 2+2 spirit lived on. Its styling cues, especially the sloped nose and European proportions, resurfaced in later models like the 1977 Can-Am and the 1980 Grand Am Revival, which carried a hint of the same driver's car ambition, albeit without the original's engineering sophistication. In the end, the 1973 Grand Am 2+2 prototype represents a pivotal turning point for Pontiac and GM, the moment when the company's performance heart was stifled by global economics and bureaucracy. Had it reached production, it might have positioned Pontiac as America's true BMW rival a decade before the European luxury wave took over U.S. roads. Instead, it became a forgotten experiment, a symbol of what Detroit could have achieved if not for politics, fuel shortages, and fear. In the end, the Grand Am 2+2 wasn't just canceled, it was a casualty of the death of the muscle luxury dream in America.
Number 5. The 1966 AMC AMXi prototype was American Motors Corporation's boldest attempt at entering the high-performance sports car arena. At a time when the Chevrolet Corvette dominated the two-seat American market, AMC, a small, independent automaker better known for economical cars like the Rambler and Gremlin, wanted to prove it could produce a genuine performance machine. The AMXi was the result. A fiberglass-bodied, mid-engine sports coupe designed to rival the Corvette and even European exotics. AMC's goal with the AMXi was ambitious: create a lightweight, aerodynamic two-seater with exceptional handling and acceleration. The car featured a fiberglass body mounted on a tubular steel frame, making it extremely light for a mid-1960s sports car. Mid-engine layout, placing the V8 behind the driver to improve balance and weight distribution, a rarity for American automakers at the time. A fully independent rear suspension, also unusual for U.S. cars, intended to enhance cornering grip. AMC's own high-output small-block V8 tuned for both power and compactness to fit the mid-engine chassis. Aesthetically, the AMX-I was sleek and futuristic. Its fastback profile, low stance, and aggressive nose were reminiscent of European race cars. Pop-up headlights and minimal chrome made it appear far more exotic than anything AMC had previously built. Despite its beauty, the AMX-I was extremely untested and inherently unstable. The combination of a mid-mounted V8, lightweight fiberglass construction, and experimental rear suspension created a car that could quickly overwhelm inexperienced drivers. During a controlled testing session, the car spun out violently at moderate speed, a frightening demonstration of its instability. AMC's safety division, concerned about potential fatalities and liability, immediately halted all road testing. The engineers realized the rear suspension design could cause oversteer that even skilled drivers might not be able to control, a critical flaw in an era before modern traction control or stability systems. This spinout effectively killed the AMX-I as a road-going prototype. While it had potential on paper, lightweight, aerodynamic, and mid-engine, AMC could not justify the risk to employees or the public. The company shelved the project, opting instead for the more conventional AMX-2 design, a front-engine, two-seat coupe that could safely enter production and compete with the Corvette. The 1966 AMX-I prototype is remembered as a glimpse of AMC's potential if it had dared to take more risks. It was a car that could have been America's first truly mid-engine sports car, challenging European exotics and shaking up the U.S. performance market. However, it also highlights the limitations of small automakers in the 1960s. Innovation was possible, but testing, refinement, and safety enforcement often constrained ambition. The AMX-I lived on as a design and engineering exercise, influencing later AMC concepts and the production AMX, which opted for safer, more conventional layouts. In essence, the AMX-I represents the collision of ambition and reality. A car that dared to challenge the Corvette but was too dangerous to drive. It remains an important piece of American automotive history, showing that even small automakers dreamed big, even if the laws of physics and safety wouldn't allow those dreams to hit the road.
Number 4. The 1964 Rambler Tarpon concept is one of American Motors Corporation's most iconic what-could-have-been designs. A sleek, fastback compact coupe that hinted at the sporty potential of the American compact car. AMC, historically conservative and focused on economical family transportation, envisioned the Tarpon as a youthful, stylish alternative to the Dodge Dart, Ford Falcon, and Chevrolet Corvair. A car that could appeal to buyers who wanted style without giving up AMC's reputation for practicality. The Tarpon was essentially the baby version of AMC's Marlin, which would debut 2 years later as a larger, sporty fastback. Designers sought to prove that American buyers were ready for compact cars with European-inspired styling. Fastback roofline, low, sweeping, and aerodynamic, giving the impression of speed even while parked. Two-door coupe body. Short and tight proportions made the car feel agile and sporty. Clean, minimal trim. AMC avoided excessive chrome, instead focusing on smooth surfaces and sculpted body lines. Compact dimensions. The car weighed significantly less than the typical 1960s American sedan, promising lighter handling and better fuel economy. Inside, the Tarpon featured a driver-focused cockpit with a small, sporty steering wheel and simple instrumentation. The goal was to offer a sense of fun without sacrificing AMC's core values of reliability and comfort. Despite its innovative design, AMC's board of directors vetoed the Tarpon for production.
Their reasoning reflected the company's conservative philosophy at the time. Too sporty. AMC worried the car would alienate its core audience of cautious, practical buyers. They feared it would attract young, inexperienced drivers, potentially leading to accidents. Risk to brand image. AMC prided itself on dependable, sensible cars. A flashy, compact coupe might appear frivolous and damage the reputation of Rambler as a safe, reliable marque. Economic considerations. Developing a new compact sports coupe would require substantial investment in tooling and marketing with no guaranteed return. AMC's board felt the risk outweighed the potential reward. As a result, the Tarpon never reached production, even though internal tests suggested it could have been a hit among younger buyers. Although the Tarpon was canceled, it directly influenced AMC's Marlin Fastback, which borrowed the sweeping roofline and styling cues, but in a larger, more conservative form designed to appeal to existing Rambler buyers. The Tarpon's design language also foreshadowed the pony car era, predating the Ford Mustang by over a year and demonstrating that AMC's design team could innovate ahead of the market. The 1964 Rambler Tarpon remains a symbol of AMC's unrealized ambition. A beautiful, sporty, compact coupe that was simply too daring for a company that prioritized caution over flash. Today, concept enthusiasts and historians celebrate it as a visionary design, showing that AMC could create cars that were stylish, youthful, and modern, if only corporate conservatism hadn't stepped in.
Number 3. The 1974 AMC Gremlin XP prototype represents one of the most audacious and ill-fated attempts by American Motors Corporation to innovate in the compact car segment. AMC wanted to take its already unconventional Gremlin and push it into the future of lightweight, aerodynamic cars. But the execution revealed the limits of material science and regulatory tolerance in the 1970s. The Gremlin XP, or experimental prototype, was conceived during a period of experimentation in the automotive industry. Rising fuel prices, growing interest in small cars, and pressure to improve performance and efficiency. AMC engineers wanted to address two major goals: aerodynamics. The standard Gremlin, with its stubby rear and blunt nose, was not particularly efficient. AMC hoped that a more streamlined body could improve fuel economy and high-speed stability. But the execution revealed the limits of material science and regulatory tolerance in the 1970s. The 1974 AMC Gremlin XP prototype was conceived during a period of experimentation in the automotive industry. Rising fuel prices, growing interest in small cars, and pressure to improve performance and efficiency. AMC engineers wanted to address two major goals: aerodynamics. The standard Gremlin, with its stubby rear and blunt nose, was not particularly efficient. AMC hoped that a more streamlined body could improve fuel economy and high-speed stability. But the execution revealed the limits of material science and regulatory tolerance in the 1970s. Plastic body panels. The materials used were too brittle to absorb impact energy. During initial crash testing, panels shattered violently on minor impacts, sending shards into the crash test dummies area. Structural weaknesses. Unlike steel, the plastic could not provide a rigid crumple zone. Even low-speed collisions compromised the chassis, exposing the prototype's occupants to extreme risk. DOT intervention. The U.S. Department of Transportation immediately banned the Gremlin XP from further on-road testing after it failed crash protocols. Regulators concluded that the car posed unacceptable danger to drivers and pedestrians alike. This was a critical blow to AMC, as it effectively ended any serious attempts to develop a production Gremlin with advanced plastic bodywork.
The failure of the Gremlin XP prototype had several consequences. Material conservatism. AMC reverted to traditional steel panels for the standard Gremlin and later subcompact models. Regulatory caution. The DOT's ban demonstrated that radical material experimentation without rigorous safety testing could kill a project outright. Lost innovation opportunity. Had the XP succeeded, AMC could have positioned itself as a leader in lightweight, fuel-efficient cars years ahead of competitors. Instead, the Gremlin remained quirky but conventional in its materials. Today, the 1974 AMC Gremlin XP prototype is remembered as a cautionary tale of innovation gone too far. It was a glimpse of the future, aerodynamic, lightweight, and daring, but it was also a reminder that safety and practicality cannot be sacrificed in pursuit of novelty. Enthusiasts and historians celebrated as a symbol of AMC's willingness to experiment, even if the technology of the time was not ready. While it never hit the streets, the Gremlin XP paved the way for later experiments with plastics, composites, and aerodynamic design in small cars. Number 2. The 1963 Rambler Vignale convertible stands as one of AMC's most elegant yet impractical experiments. Conceived as a show-stopping design exercise, AMC commissioned Carrozzeria Vignale, the renowned Italian coach builder, to create a hand-built convertible that could showcase American styling combined with European sophistication. The result was stunning. Sleek lines, flowing proportions, and a sense of luxury and exclusivity rarely seen on U.S. compact cars. Vignale was known for taking bold risks with form, and the Rambler convertible was no exception. Low, flowing body. The car had a classic Italian roadster silhouette, with sweeping fenders, a tapered rear, and subtle chrome accents. Hand-finished panels. Each body panel was crafted individually in Italy, resulting in unmatched surface quality and attention to detail. Luxurious interior. The cockpit featured leather upholstery, a minimalist dashboard, and elegant instrumentation reminiscent of European sports cars. Convertible top. The soft top roof folded neatly behind the seats, maintaining the car's clean lines when open. The Vignale convertible was designed to be visually perfect, a concept that AMC intended to parade at auto shows to elevate the Rambler brand in the eyes of design-conscious buyers. Despite its beauty, the car was fundamentally unsafe by U.S. standards. No seatbelts. In 1963, seatbelt usage was not yet mandated, but the car's design offered no practical provisions for occupant restraint. Thin metal body. To keep weight low and allow for delicate Italian coach building, the panels were extremely thin. In the event of a collision, the structure could collapse easily. Weak frame. The chassis was a modified Rambler frame, but it was insufficient to handle the stress of a convertible top. Without reinforcement, the car twisted and flexed dangerously under normal driving loads. When the car was evaluated against emerging U.S. safety standards, it failed catastrophically. Structural tests indicated that any real-world crash could easily result in severe injury or death for occupants. Due to these failures, regulators banned the Rambler Vignale convertible from being driven on public roads. AMC accepted the verdict, understanding that its prototype was never intended for mass production or long-term use anyway. The car remained a static showpiece, admired for its styling rather than its practicality or safety. The 1963 Rambler Vignale convertible is remembered as a masterpiece of Italian-American collaboration, showing that AMC could compete visually with European sports cars when given free rein. However, it is also a warning about the clash between design ambition and safety realities. Beautiful engineering alone cannot overcome structural inadequacy. The car influenced later AMC styling, particularly the Rambler Marlin, in terms of proportions and fastback aesthetics, but AMC wisely avoided replicating the Vignale's structural shortcomings. In the end, the Rambler Vignale convertible exists as a celebrated museum piece, a rare combination of American ambition and Italian flair, frozen in time because it was too beautiful and too dangerous to drive.
Number 1. The 1971 AMC Matador X prototype represents one of American Motors Corporation's boldest and most dangerous forays into automotive aerodynamics. AMC, a small and often risk-taking automaker, was experimenting with ways to make its mid-size Matador coupe faster, sleeker, and more stable at high speeds, inspired by both European GTs and the emerging muscle car era. The Matador X was a radical reimagining of the standard Matador. Exaggerated front fenders, designed to channel airflow efficiently around the front wheels and improve high-speed stability. Chopped roofline lowered the profile to reduce drag, giving the car a more aggressive, sporty appearance. Aerodynamic rear deck, intended to produce downforce on the rear axle, helping traction at high speeds. Wide stance and flared wheel arches enhanced road presence and allowed for larger tires for better grip. Inside, the Matador X retained a conventional interior, but included driver-focused instrumentation for monitoring speed, airflow, and engine performance, showing AMC's intention to make this a serious performance vehicle, not just a show car. While visually stunning and conceptually exciting, the Matador X suffered from critical aerodynamic miscalculations. Wind tunnel data revealed a shocking flaw. Instead of producing downforce, the front and rear body shapes generated lift at speeds above 90 miles per hour. Near takeoff conditions, on test tracks, drivers experienced the front end becoming light and unstable. In some trials, the car nearly lost contact with the road, a terrifying scenario for any prototype. Chassis limitations. The Matador's standard frame was not reinforced to handle aerodynamic lift, making any high-speed testing extremely risky. After several near accidents and careful engineering review, AMC's safety division banned the prototype from further testing on public or private roads. The risks of catastrophic failure were deemed too high. Even if the aerodynamic issues had been corrected, AMC faced additional challenges. Market timing. The muscle car era was peaking, but buyers favored raw engine power over exotic aerodynamics. Production feasibility. The extreme body panels would have required costly retooling, increasing the retail price far beyond a typical Matador buyer's budget. Regulatory concerns. Any production model would have had to pass emerging federal safety and crash standards, which the X prototype could not meet. Thus, AMC shelved the project permanently, leaving the Matador X as a concept car and wind tunnel experiment. The 1971 Matador X prototype is remembered as both a testament to AMC's ambition and a cautionary tale about over-engineering. It showed that smaller automakers could experiment with extreme aerodynamic design even in the early 1970s. Ambitious ideas could fail spectacularly if physics and engineering reality were ignored. Aerodynamic performance is a delicate balance. Small miscalculations at high speeds can turn a promising concept into a dangerous vehicle. Though never reaching production, the Matador X influenced AMC's styling and performance thinking for the next generation of Matadors and later prototypes, instilling a respect for the limits of mid-size American chassis when pushed to aerodynamic extremes.